Welcome to session 12. Have you ever shopped for a house or an apartment? Wouldn't it be easy if we were merely comparing just dollars? We would obviously take the cheapest house or apartment and move right in. But there are other things to consider. Size of abode, location, what is included in the price, utilities and other amenities, what are the terms of the contract, etc. In other words, the competitive market is not judged by dollars alone. Now, I'm sure most of you were aware of this. It's nothing new. However, we have a tendency to look at compensation only in terms of dollars paid. And we determine the fairness of our compensation only on how much we are paid. When I lived in Indiana, many of my friends and family worked for Eli Lilly and Company. Lilly is a pharmaceutical company, and they offer exceptional benefits for employees. Their pay is certainly not under the market, but it's not excessive either. Most people in the community lauded Lilly as the place to work. But I was amazed at the number of friends and family members who complained that Lilly didn't pay well. I could never understand how individuals could complain about such a tremendous total compensation package. Simple. They based their definition of fairness on dollars alone. I once had a friend complain that they only received a $5,000 bonus that year from Lilly. They felt that the company shortchanged them since they had received more in terms of bonus the previous years. They held a rather low-level position in the company and certainly not a managerial job. I remember chastising them since I was in a management position in another company and didn't receive a bonus at all. I guess you just can't please everybody. Determining the limits of the competitive labor market is complex and difficult. Not only does it have many moving parts to analyze, the job, the geographical limits, other pay options, etc., but the expectations and needs of employees vary greatly. The purpose of an analysis of the competitive market is to minimize the possibility that our employees will be stolen by other organizations, as well as to recruit other employees as well. And to do that successfully, we must offer something to employees that is competitive in pay and non-pay elements with other market players. What's a good price on a house or apartment? Well, it depends on what you need and value. What's a good pay level for particular jobs? Well, it depends on what employees perceive they need and value. There's no easy answer, but we must find an answer, because having no value, our answer, is unacceptable. And having no answer will ensure a non-competitive position related to the external market. And a non-competitive position is always bad in any business, anywhere. But I'm going to complicate this topic of competitiveness even more. The text addresses competitiveness with the external market in this chapter. In the next few lectures, I will discuss another competitive internal market. I've already discussed the competitive market that culminates in the battle for the buck. However, another internal market is revealed in the competition for departmental and personal share of the limited funds. How much of the compensation dollars do I get every year? In other words, how do we distribute the compensation funds that have been allocated each year? What is a fair share? We will discuss that important topic in the next few sessions. So we're going to try to define the competitive market. But competitive market depends on where you stand at the time. As I stated in the introduction, I can think of at least 3 competitive markets that impact compensation. We've already discussed the first competitive market. That's in the internal competitive market, when HR competes with other departments and internal interest for the limited dollars available in the budget. I call that the battle for the buck. There's another internal competitive market as well. That is defined by individuals and departments vying for the limited funds that are earmarked for compensation of employees. Finally, the text will focus on the competitive labor market, defined as our company versus other companies that may attempt to steal our employees, or the external labor market. Think about that second internal competitive market for a moment. Of the available funds, how do we distribute them to our employees? Do we distribute them with central influence? Does upper management dictate through a matrix how funds will be allocated to individuals? Do we distribute them equally? Does each person get an equal percentage or dollar amount of increase? Do we distribute funds based on job performance? Or do we distribute funds using a combination of these methods? Our choice of these distribution methods has great impact on the success of our compensation program and on our organizational culture. In one of our previous sessions, I asked if you had been adequately paid or underpaid. Many of you indicated that at some time you have received adequate pay, but many of you also said that you had been underpaid or are currently underpaid. Now, I'm not doubting or questioning your underpaid assumption, but I would ask, underpaid based on what? Underpaid based on what you need? Underpaid based on what you want? Underpaid based on what you feel you deserve? Underpaid based on the market? Underpaid based on the organization's profitability? Underpaid compared to your brother-in-law? I have no doubt that you feel underpaid or that you are underpaid. However, the basis of that assumption is important to consider. As a matter of fact, you have little chance of fixing the problem unless you know where it originates. I bring this up because as an HR person, I've been approached by hundreds of employees and managers. Okay, hundreds may be a stretch, but lots, claiming that they or someone in their department is underpaid. Now, it's one thing to claim that a person is underpaid, but quite another to claim that a job is underpaid. They're two different problems and require different solutions. But the basic question still remains, compared to what? What is a relevant competitive market? Same thing at home. If I look at a car and say it's overpriced, compared to what? What's my base? I was looking for a new car and vowed I would never spend $25,000 on a new automobile. I didn't just think cars were overpriced, I thought people were crazy to spend that much on a car. Obviously, I hadn't been in the car market for quite some time. I started shopping around on the internet and from dealer to dealer and settled on a car that cost somewhat more than $25,000. Several thousand more, actually. I was actually out bragging on what a good deal I got. Did I turn into the crazy people I belittled? Well, I guess so. But what really happened was I got in touch with the market. I understood where all the competitors were, and my base changed. I understood where the competitors were in my market, which may be vastly different than other people's perceptions. Other people may believe that if I just paid over $25,000 for a car, it must be a rattle trap compared to their BMW. Others believe that I must be in the big bucks. So how do we determine the proper value of pay? How do we choose an acceptable level for us as individuals? For you see, each of us is different and perceive pay differently, just as we do cars and steaks and computers and boats and houses, etc. How much is enough and how much is too much? In fact, we are experiencing this conundrum related to pay in our society right now. Let's talk minimum wage. The current minimum wage is $7.25 per hour. Some want to raise it to a livable minimum wage, whatever that is, and others don't want to raise it at all. Still others want to raise it a little bit, and others want to do away with the minimum wage altogether and get the government out of our pay issues. So are people making minimum wage underpaid? Underpaid compared to what and to whom? If you believe they are underpaid, then the simple answer is to raise the minimum. But to how much? Do we raise it to $10 or to $15 or to $25 per hour? Why not $30 per hour? I know what you're thinking. Now that's silly. But what's not silly? Also, do we raise it all at once or incrementally over several years? And if you determine that $15 is fair and everyone agrees, why wait for several years to get there? And what problems might we create by raising the minimum wage? None, you may say. Everyone would be happy. Those who make minimum wage would be thrilled, and those who make more than minimum wage won't care because it won't affect them. It won't? Let's look a little closer. The text discusses how wage rates greatly affect the cost of producing products and services. The more paid for labor, the more the product costs consumers. Also, the more it costs to produce goods and services, the more businesses try to reduce costs and do so largely through automation. What's the outcome? If we raise the minimum wage, the price of goods and services will increase for everyone. The production of more goods and services will be outsourced offshore, so jobs will be lost. More businesses will automate as the cost of labor increases, so even more jobs will be lost. The initial jobs that will be lost belong to the very people we're trying to help. More minimum wage jobs will go overseas and will be automated and therefore eliminated. So if we raise minimum wage, there will be a negative impact on the people holding minimum wage jobs. And the extent of that impact will depend on how much we raise the minimum wage. Ironic, isn't it? Now, some may argue these conclusions, but it's how business works. It just makes sense. However, the effects of raising the minimum wage doesn't just impact minimum wage people. It affects all of us. We all will pay more for goods and services. And it doesn't just affect us if we eat at McDonald's or utilize minimum wage services. It will affect all products eventually. Many other jobs are indebted to a certain extent to the minimum wage. If the pay for people working at McDonald's goes up, shouldn't the pay for people working in retail or managers, etc., also increase? And if more minimum wage jobs are eliminated due to automation and organizations employ less people overall, do we need as many managers and accountants and HR people? People arguing for higher minimum wage argue that evil organizations such as Walmart and McDonald's, and I don't really believe they are evil at all, will continue to pay less, thus starving and abusing unskilled people. Truth is that most McDonald's and Walmarts pay substantially higher than minimum wage for most positions. Oh, and one other thing. If we pay people $10 or $15 an hour to flip hamburgers, can we really justify what we pay military people to protect our country? Can we justify what we pay people to teach and watch over our children? If we raise all of them, how much do we want to pay, and can we afford to pay in taxes? Raising minimum wage doesn't happen in a vacuum. It happens in a marketplace. So what do we pay for unskilled labor? How much is enough and how much is too much? What consequences are there to our actions? Now, some of you may be arguing they can't eliminate and automate everything. Don't be too sure. You know, when I was young, there was an abundance of minimum wage jobs available for summer work, Christmas jobs, and jobs that you can work at while getting an education. And many of those jobs paid higher than minimum wage. But today, those jobs are being or have been eliminated. We need fewer travel agents, insurance agents, bookstore clerks, movie rental store clerks, just to name a few. Anybody been in a Chili's or Red Robin's restaurant yesterday? There is a small computer terminal at each table that allows you to pay for your meal, order some additional food, etc., without the assistance of waitstaff. Although waitstaff hasn't been totally eliminated as yet, some of their tasks are being done by computers. I believe it is a matter of time until the number of waitstaff required is curtailed. As minimum wage increases, this automation trend is more likely to evolve. So what do you think? Should minimum wage be increased or left alone or eliminated altogether? If increased, how much? And if increased, are you willing and able to pay the premium required to fund the action? Nothing is free, particularly when it comes from the government. Now, I'll level with you. If you haven't guessed by now, I'm not a fan of a huge increase in minimum wage. I can handle a small increase, but I'm definitely not in favor of establishing a so-called, quote, living wage, end quote. I defy anyone to tell me what a living wage really is. This comment is in the interest of full disclosure. We will likely discuss this topic more in the discussion forum. Now, I use this example to demonstrate how complex pay and pay administration can be. Changing pay can have far-reaching consequences. Obviously, the easiest thing to do is just to leave it alone. If it's competitive and acceptable now, why mess with it? Well, just like everything else in the world, someone is going to mess with it and change the competitive formula. When one moves, all must move to keep up. In terms of external competitiveness, we must make two important decisions before we are ready to develop base pay structures. First, how do we want to compete? We need to stake out our competitive territory. And as indicated in the text, we have three choices. Is our base pay going to be above market, below the market, or are we going to match the market? The second decision, which can influence our direct to first decision, is what is our mix of pay? For example, if we decide our total pay is going to match the competitive market, we may choose to establish a base pay lower than the competitive market rate and make up the difference with a bonus plan or some other type of pay for performance or incentive pay. If we choose above the market, we may elect to match the market with base pay and add other forms of incentive, bonus, or pay for performance. So far, we've been talking primarily about base pay, but as you can see, we now will include other forms of pay in our discussions. Another consideration, which is less a decision than a reaction, is what is the geographical limits of our competitive market? And geographical competitive market may vary with the job. At Nestle, we looked at the local market for recruiting hourly employees. We generally considered local to be within driving distance of our facility. First level managers were recruited on a local and regional basis. We may consider someone for a first level manager within the surrounding states of our location. Professional positions were recruited regionally and nationally. Different competitive regions were used in the same company depending on the type of job to be performed. How do we determine the geographical competitive market for each job? Well, simply ask yourself, who's going to steal our employees? It is highly unlikely that an hourly employee will receive a job offer from Kansas when we're located in North Carolina. However, if that employee is an engineer, Kansas is certainly in play. It follows that one reason to track the competitive market is to keep your employees from being stolen. And pay mix complicates that endeavor. If we were matching dollars, the task would be easy. Just keep even or ahead. However, we are matching dollars and potential dollars, such as bonuses and incentive plans, work environments, benefits, etc. If we match the market in dollars, our employees may still be stolen because our benefit plan is weak. But what is a good benefit plan? Well, it depends. Things like benefits mean different things to different people. Child care plans, maternity leave for spouses, etc. are all probably very popular for most of you. They mean very little to me from a personal perspective. I'll never use them. My child rearing days are over. On the flip side, lucrative retirement plans may mean less to you than me because of your stage in life. Remember our discussion on diversity? As our workplace becomes more diverse, it is more difficult to determine what satisfies the needs of employees because those needs are more diverse as well. To address this issue, many companies have developed flexible benefit plans, flexible work schedules, flexible pay plans, etc. Options and choices are becoming the new norm, and I, for one, think it's a very beneficial change in the workplace. One example of a flexible benefit plan, often called a cafeteria plan, was implemented at Nestle. This is a brief description of that plan, but shows how something such as the traditional benefit plan can be altered and made more flexible and attractive to a wide range of employees. Keep in mind that this plan was implemented in the early 1990s. Employees were allocated a certain amount of money each month, earmarked for benefits. They could choose to spend the money on a list of benefits. For example, let's assume each employee was allocated $1,000 per month to spend on benefits. The expenditure had to be committed each year and could only change under specific circumstances. The inventory of benefits may include Health Care Plan 1, which is very comprehensive, $500 a month. Healthcare Plan 2, which was good coverage but less than 1, was $400 a month. Healthcare Plan 3 was a basic healthcare plan, would cost you $300. Life insurance, a high dollar benefit, was $200, and a basic life plan was $100 a month. Dependent life insurance was $100 a month. Child care was $200 a month. Elder care, help with parental care, was $200. Disability insurance was $100, and educational assistance or tuition reimbursement didn't cost anything in the benefit plan. There were other offerings, but you get the idea. They made their selections, and if they totaled $1,000 per month, the benefits were paid. If they totaled over $1,000 per month, the excess was deducted from employees' paychecks. If they totaled less than $1,000 per month, the difference was given to the employee in their monthly paycheck. Everyone received the same monetary amount of benefits, either in actual benefits or in money in a paycheck. Those who wanted more benefits were able to obtain more, but had to pay out of their pocket. This plan equalized the inequity in benefit plans created in a diverse workforce with diverse needs and interests. Remember my discussion of the battle for the buck? That barrel of money is limited. If the company pays money for certain benefits, they can't pay money for other benefits. As I said previously, I don't have children at home. My children are grown. Why should I pay for child care benefits out of my share of the benefit pie when I will never use that benefit? I'm interested in retirement benefits at a high level. On the other hand, an employee in their 20s with 3 kids do not want to pay for high-level retirement benefits out of their share of the pie. The flexible plan described above allows all employees to invest to their own interest. In addition, the benefit coverage can obviously change as my life changes. I can emphasize one area of benefits when my family is young and another when my family is grown. What's the advantage of this plan to the company? Well, Nestle's benefit cost per employee were stable. We could plan on $1,000 per employee per month. In addition, our employees appreciated our benefits. They selected them annually and had a financial stake in each benefit. Needless to say, employees loved this plan. There are disadvantages to such a plan as well, but overall it's a sound alternative to the traditional benefit plan we are used to seeing in organizations. In addition to such flexible plans, I believe we will be seeing a broadening of benefit plans to include domestic partners and other groups, and the inclusion of child care and elder care options. Some of these plans are already here, and their increased offering by organizations will be a result of public and social pressure, but also a desire to recruit more competitively. And of course, the result of fulfilling the needs of a diverse workforce. So I'll go back to my first question. If you are underpaid, or overpaid for that matter, on what do you base your opinion? Was the discrepancy a result of inadequate allocation of funds for compensation programs, or unequal distribution of funds available, or an organization failing to keep up with the external competitive marketplace? The reason for the discrepancy is important because the remedy is very different for each possible cause. And I suspect you will find the answer to your inequity problem lies with you more than with the organization, at least in the short run. It really comes down to a personal decision. Is the inequality sufficient to cause you to change jobs, or is it a minor enough that you can tolerate the issue? Of course, recognizing the root cause greatly assists you in making that important decision. Now that we understand the complexities of defining the competitive market, we will begin our exploration of the second internal competitive market. We will explore how an organization can address the allocation of funds available to ensure those funds are spent wisely and appropriately. The development of base pay structures will help immensely in that endeavor.